Hello, welcome to lesson 3.2, Significant Figures, Part 2. Today we're going to discuss calculations with significant figures. So that's addition and subtraction, and multiplication and division. So we're not going to go ahead and review the other ones. So what we did in the previous lesson, so we're going to go ahead and get straight into it. So the general rule for calculations is that the accuracy of a calculated result is limited by the least accurate measurement involved in the calculation. So let's start with addition and subtraction. This is limited by the general rule is you use the amount of significant figures with the number that has the least amount of decimal places. So let's say we have 100 plus 23.643. And that equals, normally in mathematics, in like an algebra class, we'd say this is 123.643. It's not how we do in chemistry, though, in science in general, really. So 23.643 has 5 significant figures. I'll write that in a different color. And 100 has 1. So 100 has the least amount of decimal places, obviously. 23.643 has 3 decimal places. 100 has none. So we're going to go ahead and take 100. So we're going to round 123.643 to oh, I'm sorry, I read this. This should be 100 points. So this should be actually 3 significant figures. I'm reading my notes wrong. Apologize. So we're going to go ahead and round this to 3 significant figures. We can just round up to the nearest whole number for that. We'll get 124 for that. And that's rounded at 3 sig figs. So, however, with multiplication and division, it's both easier and more difficult. So, multiplication and division, you're going to go with the number that has the least amount of significant figures. So let's say we have 3.0 times, remember we use a dot nowadays, 12.60, which in normal mathematics would equal 37.8000. But 3.0 has 2 significant figures, 12.60 has 4 significant figures. So we're going to go ahead and take this one as 2, so we're going to round this up to 38. You should know your rules for rounding off numbers by now. 5 go up, 4 and below go down. So with calculators, though, you want to make sure that you're not rounding in the middle of a problem. That goes for any class, like not even just chemistry, in multiplication when you're using calculators, especially in later math where the calculations get a lot more complex, like pre-calculus and later. You really want to make sure either enter the problem in all at once or use the answer feature, things like that. Let's go ahead and do some practice problems. So we're going to do just some calculations. We're going to ignore units for now. Units don't affect significant figures, even in dimensional analysis if you have done that before, which if you're in a higher level math before taking chemistry, for example, pre-calculus does dimensional analysis, and depending on your track, you may be in pre-calculus or have finished pre-calculus by the time you take chemistry, as an example. But we'll get to dimensional analysis later this unit. So let's do 12.5849 plus 2.4. So 12.5849 has 6 sig figs. 2.4 has 2 sig figs. So if we were to add these together, we'd get almost 15. It would be like, let me think, 13.9849. I'm not going to use a calculator here until we get to the more complex problems. So this has, oh, I'm sorry, this should be 14. So we're rounding with the smallest amount of decimal places, which is our 2.4, has 2 sig figs. We're going to round this up to 15. Let's do 432.5 minus 24.390, or I'm sorry, 84. This is something where we can pull out a calculator here. I unfortunately cannot show it on the screen. We'll go ahead, get a calculator. 432.5 minus 24.3984, which equals 408.1013. And we want to round here to least amount of decimal places is this one. So we're going to round to 4 sig figs, which will get us 408.1. Let's do some multiplication ones. Let's do 246. That's a 3. Let's do 246 times 1.5. So 1.5 is our smallest amount of sig figs, so we know we'll round to 2. So 246 times 1.5. Multiplication, division, that is fine. Unless you're multiplying by some form like tens, hundreds, thousands, you should be fine with this, with using a calculator. So you have 369 here. We want to round to 2 sig figs. We can do that by just going to 370. Let's do 974.59 over, or divided by 14.2. So we know we'll be using our 14.2 since that has the least amount of sig figs. That will be 3 sig figs. 974.59 divided by 14.2 gets us some whack number, 68.63309. Just, it keeps going on. Let me actually keep going here. 859, so that rounds properly. We're going to round that to 3 sig figs, which will just get us nice and easy, 68.6. So that's all you need to know about calculations with significant figures. That concludes our significant figures lesson.